Hi everyone, good morning. I hope you are able to hear me.
I was there.
Very good morning. So in the last session, we have seen how we can move the data from Azure SQL Server to Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. We have seen how we can move data from Azure SQL Server to Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. So in order to move it, we used Azure Data Factory, a brand new data factory we created, and we set up all these things and we have seen how we can do it. So for few days, I'm not going to use the Azure SQL Server to reduce the cost. If you have a same SQL Server you are on-prem, then it will reduce the cost. So for that reason, I'm checking that one. And apart from that, in general, in real time, we are going to have a on-prem systems as a data sources. So in that case, how exactly are going to work? That is also is going to be more helpful to take on-prem SQL Server. That is the main reason to take it. Okay, so if I do everything, I can do it with Azure SQL Server also, but you feel when you go for working with Azure on-prem SQL Server, then there may be some miscommunication. To avoid it, I'm just going to use on-prem SQL Server for next few, at least next 1 week, I'm going to use only on-prem SQL Server only. If I really require this, I'm going to take the Azure SQL Server. Okay. So in real time, where exactly we're going to use this Azure SQL Server, I'll give a brief about it. But in general, we are going to have a on-prem systems only in the real time. So that may be Oracle systems, or that may be a SQL Server, or that may be any other databases also in the market. So if you have such kind of situation, then how you're going to do it, that I'm going to take you through. So this one we have seen how we can move the data from Azure SQL Server to Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. We have seen practically how exactly it is going to be there. And the next use case I'm going to talk is on-prem SQL Server to Azure SQL Server. On-prem SQL Server to Azure SQL Server I'm taking. Or on-prem to on-prem also I'm going to take. For source, I'm not going to take it. Okay, so for target also I can take the ADLS only, but for time being, I wanted to go with Azure SQL Server. We already having, I don't have it. I removed it last couple of days ago because we were not having a session, right? So I removed it to reduce the cost. I wanted to create a pipeline to move the data from on-prem SQL Server to Azure SQL Server. On-prem SQL Server to Azure SQL Server. Okay, so we can, if I wanted to read the data from on-prem SQL Server, we have to use self-hosted integration runtime. So if you don't have a self-hosted integration runtime, then you cannot run it. You cannot read the data from there. You cannot read the data from the on-prem SQL Server if you don't have a self-hosted integration runtime. Wherever you have a source in that particular source systems, you need to have a self-hosted integration runtime. And my target is Azure SQL Server. So since my target is Azure SQL Server, I can use Azure integration runtime. So this kind of requirement, definitely in the interview, they're going to ask you if you have a requirement like this, then how you're going to do it. So what are the steps that you're going to take it? The first is you need to have a integration runtime of type self-hosted integration runtime. Then link services are required. Then data sets are required. Then you're going to design the pipeline. So pipeline is required. So these steps they're going to expect. And when the moment to say self-hosted integration runtime, they will ask what is the purpose of it. So self-hosted integration runtime is used to read the data from on-prem systems. So that is what I have given here. In order to do this, we are going to use the copy data activity to read data from on-prem to on-prem SQL Server. And to read data from on-prem SQL Server, make sure to have a self-hosted integration runtime. So we need to download the self-hosted integration runtime and install and set up the integration runtime. And once you set up it, we need to register your data factory with the Azure Data Factory key. There is an authentication key. We are going to have it. We need to authenticate your integration runtime with the Azure Data Factory key. So how we are going to set up all these things? We are going to do And once you set up it, do not remove the data factory for few days. Okay, do not remove it. If you remove it again, you have to set up all the self-hosted integration runtime and so on. Okay, so data factory is not going to be much more cost. You don't need to worry about it. Only thing is Azure SQL Server is going to be having a cost. And once we stop practicing with Azure SQL Server, you can remove Azure SQL Server. It's up to you. Okay, it's all depends on the situation. You can have it. And creating a Azure SQL Server is not going to take much more time. So let me set up this one and I'll come back. In the last session, we already created one resource group. From that particular resource group or into that resource group, I'm going to create a SQL Server because I know the 2 days I'm not going to use. So I just removed it. I'm already having a SQL Server. Server is available. Only database I'm going to create. To create a database will not take much time as we already having a server. Plus create. And single database I'm taking. Subscription is there with the right subscription, whatever I have created in the last time. And database name I'm taking as target because my database name, as per the note, I'm having a database name called target. I'm just creating a target database. And server is same. We already created last time. The same server I'm going to use it. And this is a development purpose and change the configuration. I always recommend for educational purpose, take the basic only because we are not going to create any other pricing tiers. So just take with the basic for practicing. Let's apply. And then let's say next. In the next, I'm going to switch on these two buttons. One is already available for the server. Another for database. I'm just going to add my current IP address and review plus create. So while it is getting created, let's go and open the data factory. Data factories. So we have created this data factory in the last session. I'm just going to open it. Same data factory. Launch your data factory studio. Let's go to manage. In the manage, let's go to integration runtime. Because my source is not a cloud system. My source is non-Azure system. If I have a non-Azure system, then we need to use self-hosted integration runtime. I do not have a self-hosted integration runtime here. Okay, so let me connect my on-prem SQL server. I said one recording session to set up on-prem SQL server. If you already set up it, you can use the SQL Server Management Studio to connect your on-prem SQL server. So this is my system name, server name. If you're not able to find your system name, then you can just go and hit on the browse for me, expand it. You can find your system name here. Hit OK. Okay, so since it is a local system, in that way you can go. But if you're trying to browse a remote system, it's going to take very longer time and it may not respond also. Okay, so always recommended to enter the server name if you know the server name. At the time of working, you can check with your team or you can check with the a person who is asking this particular requirement. You can take the source details from them. So they will provide the database name, they will provide the type of the access, and you can try from your side. So my system, my SQL server was installed with the Windows authentication. I'm just taking Windows authentication. And encryption, I'm taking an optional. And let me hit on connect. So it is connected to on-prem SQL server. In order to connect to your on-prem SQL server with Azure Data Factory, we required self-hosted integration runtime. If you don't have a self-hosted integration runtime, then you cannot connect to that. You understand, right? Why we required self-hosted integration runtime. Now let's set up here. Return plus new. There are three different runtimes and even Airflow for some reason, for the specific reason are there, but this is in preview. Okay, so previously I did not see this one. I used to see this too. Now I'm able to see this. Just month ago, I did not see even this. Okay, forget about this. Our requirement is to use self-hosted integration runtime. And there is a Azure SSIS also is there. You can see. As part of types of integration runtime, we talked about it. Lift and shift existing SSIS packages to execute in Azure. If you want to execute them by lifting and shifting your SSIS packages, then we required SSIS integration runtime. So that is what it is, a Azure SSIS IR. I required only self-hosted. I'm just going to take the self-hosted integration runtime and hit on continue. Okay, so I'm just taking self-hosted IR, just select it. You can see use this for running activities in an on-premise or private networks. If you have a different private networks, then you can go for this. Or if you have an on-prem, then you can go for this. Now let me hit on continue. I wanted to give the name of the self-hosted integration runtime. I'm just giving self-hosted IR. Any name that you can give it. And the type of integration runtime is self-hosted integration runtime. Hit on create. So once it is created, you have to download your integration runtime and you have to install it. Okay. So we have two different options to set up it. One is express setup and other is manual setup. So express setup, I don't recommend. If you go with this one, what happens is everything will be taken care by your data factory itself. Okay, so the steps will be taken automatically. But I recommend to go with the manual setup, and this setting up is going to be taken care by administrators. You are not going to have a control on it. And that too, this setup, this download is the right download and install. Where you are going to use is in the source systems, you're going to install it. In the source system, you need to install, not in your system. Wherever you have a database, your database systems are there, right? The client missions within the client system, you have to install this integration runtime. And you have to share these keys to them. So they will register this key with the integration runtime. So I'll come back to here again, and I'm just going to use this manual setup to download. Let me hit on it. Let me hit on download. So there is a various versions are available. I'm just going to take the latest one. The latest one is in the bottom. You can see, not this one, on the top. So integration runtime 5.50 is available. You do not need to download all of them. I'm just going to take the latest one. And it is having 1.1 GB. Let me hit on download.
Bhaskar, till it is downloading, I have one doubt. Can we discuss it
Yeah,
after
please,
this
please,
call?
please, please go ahead.
It is not related to SQL DB. It
Mhm,
is related to the Azure storage account we discussed last time.
mhm,
The doubt is we discussed about moving a file which is having a timestamp
mhm,
from source to target.
mhm.
But there is another one we didn't discuss about by the modified date.
No, no, we are
Is
going
some
to talk, we are going to come across it.
okay. Yeah.
So at the
Actually,
time
while
of, yeah,
practicing, I what I think what
yeah,
I
no,
thought
no
I
worries,
missed.
no worries.
Yeah,
We are going to see that. Like, we are going to talk about the tumbling window, tumbling a schedule
trigger.
trigger. Yeah. So in that case, I'm going to talk about it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
No worries. Your Azure SQL Server is also created. So today's practice is important for tomorrow's session. And tomorrow practice is important for day after tomorrow session. This are all sequence will be there. So please make sure to do practice. It's almost downloaded. So I'm just going to hit on double click on it. Let's say next. Accept the license terms and hit next, next, uninstall. So installation of your integration runtime is very easy. Just hit OK. Let's finish it. And it will ask yes or no. Just press yes. Then it is going to ask you to authenticate your key. So from here, I'm just taking one of them and paste it here and hit on register and finish it. Let's hit on close. Hit on close. Now just refresh this, then it is going running here. Self-hosted IR is available. So once you have once you have this integration runtime, then you can connect to this. Otherwise, you cannot connect it. Now let's come back to here. So we need to create a link service, right? As we're having a two different platforms, two different databases, we required. Since we're having a two different platforms, we require two integration runtimes. This we already set up is done now, and Azure IR is already available. And link services, one is for this one and other is for this one. So two link service we need to create it for this. Let's go to the link services. In the link services, so I'm going to create a new link service because my source is on-prem SQL Server. Let's say plus new Azure, not Azure. Let me go to, you can search here SQL Server. You can find here, or you can go to the databases and you can see here. So either one of the way you can do it. I'm just taking SQL Server. This is not going to be part of Azure. This is the on-prem SQL Server. Hit on continue. I'm just saying here link service underscore on-prem underscore data store. So I'm going to create I'm having one database, if I'm correct here. The name of the database is data store. So as per the note, I'm just taking it. Okay, so I'm just taking the same connectivity here. Let's say the link service underscore on-prem underscore data store. So to connect to this particular data store or to connect to my on-prem system, I need to connect via self-hosted integration runtime. If I try to connect with Resolve, with Azure integration runtime, that is not going to allow you to connect. You can try. I'm just taking self-hosted IR. In the self-hosted IR, we require to provide server name. So even if you go for Azure SQL also, we require to provide the server name. My server name is ADE. And my database name is what? Data store. My database name is a data store. And authentication type, whatever the authentication I use to connect here with SQL Server Management Studio, the same authentication I'm going to take it. So I'm just taking my Windows authentication. And username I'm taking Bhaskar. So Bhaskar is the username. I'm just taking that. And password I'm going to provide. My system password you have to provide when you use the Windows authentication. So the way you're going to log into your system, the same login details you need to use. If you have a PIN number, it is not going to work. You need to have a password.
If we don't have any password, then we need to create it.
You can at the time of installation, I told you can go with Windows authentication and SQL authentication, mixed authentication. So if you have a already mixed authentication, that is fine. And if you're not set up the SQL authentication, I'll help you how you can set up SQL authentication. Okay, either one of them is fine for practicing. Okay, you got my point, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, let me say this encrypt is an optional. Let's make test connection. Now the test connection is successfully done and hit on create. Now I have a source here. Okay, so source connector is this one. And Azure SQL Server, I'm having a target. So I need to create a link service for target. So what I'll do is I'm just going to leave this existed as it is. I'm just going to create a one more new link service for target. So my target is Azure SQL Server. The target you can take Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2 also. I'm just going to take a Azure SQL database. Hit on continue. So I'm just saying link service underscore Azure SQL underscore target. And this one will be auto resolve integration runtime, that is Azure IR. Let's go and take the subscription. Server name and database name. Authentication is SQL authentication, and username is Bhaskar, and provide the password. And make a test connection. And hit on create. Now I have two link services. One is for a SQL Server link service and other is for Azure SQL Server database connector. And next step is what we have to do. We need to do for data sets. We need to create two data sets. So in order to create a data sets, first you need to have a table in the source. Okay, so I think I have a table. So you can create a table, right? I already gave some script here. You can follow this same code to create a script or to create this customer table. So I wanted to create a customer table with customer ID, customer name, customer location, customer sales, and created at and updated at. So these two columns are important to just keep in mind. I'm going to use these two columns for next session. So for today's session, I don't need it, but for tomorrow's session, definitely I required. If possible, we are going to touch today itself. And then I'm just feeding some sample records here. Two records I'm just providing. Okay, so customer ID 101, customer name, location, and sales, and created at is get date I'm taking, and updated at I'm taking get date. All this setup basically will be taken care by process in your business. But here for practicing, I'm just keeping my own records here to test it. So like this, I just feeded only two records. I'm just going to keep. And once you execute this one, it is going to have a two records. So what I'll do is I'm just going to keep these two records only in the table. The rest of them, I'm just going to remove it. So now if I execute this, then, oh my God, what I did.
You put it like greater than 2. It was like
Oh
102.
my God. Okay, no worries. Let me feed it. Insert into customer. I thought 1, 2, 3, so I went for that.
At the time, I could have told you.
Okay. So because of that reason, we don't get a delete permissions in real time. Only for
Yeah.
dev only they're going to give. That too only they can control whatever the level they need. Zero one. Location is Hyderabad. 1000. Get date. And one more get date. So I'm just trying to feed all the values for all the column. And 102. Raja. Chennai. I may take a different values. Now let's execute it. So two rows are available. Select star from table name. I wanted to feed the data from here to your target. Okay, so same table, whatever the table I'm having here, the same table should be there in the target also. Okay, so for source, I connected with SQL Server Management Studio. For target database, I wanted to connect with Azure Data Studio. So there is a one more client also, like your SQL Server Management Studio. There is a one more client that is Azure Data Studio. I'm just taking it for reference so that I can also cover how we can connect with this one. So with this one also, we can connect to any SQL server. Any SQL server, we can connect it. Let me hit on plus new, plus add, or yeah, this one, new connection. So connection, I wanted to take this server. Let's take this. If I wanted to connect to on-prem SQL server, I can also connect to my on-prem SQL server. Any server you can connect. So I'm just trying to connect my Azure SQL server, SQL authentication, and username is Bhaskar and password, and make a test connection. I'm just taking the script. New query. I'm just pasting my SQL code here. Oh my God, this is not the one I'm looking. Okay, create table. Table name is customer. Customer ID is integer data type. Customer name is varchar 100, and customer location varchar 100. Customer sales varchar 100. And then I'm just taking these two columns, created it and updated it. Created it is datetime type, updated it or datetime. So the same table, whatever the table that I'm having in the source, the same table I'm creating in the target. Let's create it. So I wanted to load the data into this table by using your data factory. Select star from table name. So I don't have any records here. I need to load the data into this table. Okay, I need to load the data into this table. Now let me create a pipeline to read from here and load into Azure Azure SQL Server database. Let's go to the pipeline. So I wanted to create a data set. Let's create a new data set. SQL Server. Just select it and hit on continue. So I'm creating the data set name. I'm just giving the data set name is ds underscore a data store. I'm just giving the a data set name as ds underscore data store. You can give any naming standard. Let's take your on-prem data store. So I don't need to take the table name here. You can just leave it. Even if you take, that's fine. But I'm going to use this data set frequently. Again and again. Let me hit on OK. Now, I need to create a target data set also. Let me create a brand new data set. Azure SQL database. Hit on continue. So I'm just saying ds underscore. I'm just, let's say, target. So Azure SQL target I'm taking. Even here also, I'm not going to specify the name of the table. Okay, so name of the table. Otherwise, let me show the name of the table for time being. Let's hit OK. Okay, so my source data set is ready and target data set is ready. Let me create a pipeline, a new pipeline. TL underscore move data from on-prem to Azure. Any name that you can give it. So I'm just going to take the copy data activity here. And let's take a source. Your source data set, we know that is a ds underscore data store. And here I'm going to take the SQL code. So when you write a SQL code, I'm just going to prepare my SQL code here. Let me take this entire thing, select star from table name. Let's keep it here. Now, if you preview the data, you can see the data for all the columns.
We'll fetch the data from the source.
Yes. You can see just now we loaded 2 records into the table. And then we required a sink. The sink is your target. So I'm just going to run this. Just observe. If I run it, it is going to feed the data into the target. Okay, let me debug it. Now it got succeeded, and you need to verify this data is there or not, right? So 2 records should be there in the target. Your target database, it is connected. Just hit and run. Then you can see the 2 records here. Now, what I'll do is, I'm going to run again. If I run again, it is going to load again. Just observe. I'm just going to run it. Second time, I'm just running. Now just observe in the target. Just run again. Again, one more time, the same 2 records are loaded. First time 2 records. Second 2 records. But my requirement is not this one. I wanted to load only latest records. I don't want to load all the data again and again. Okay, so if that is the case, then basically we are going to have 2 different types of loads when you load the data from anywhere. Okay, so 2 types of loads we are going to have it. Just keep in mind, this is very important interview question. 2 types of loads we are going to have it. So one is full load. So full load is going to do truncate and load. This is going to truncate your target, truncate target, and then load. So this is the full loading. So full loading is always is going to remove the data in the target, then it is going to load the data. So that is one type of the load. We are going to see how we can handle this FL also. So people used to call FL or full load, whatever the name that they wanted to say. And the second type of load is very, very important for data processing profiles. That is incremental loading. Incremental load or incremental loading, and we can also call it as a delta loading. So when the moment you say that delta loading, then we are going to have a incremental loading. So that means always load latest data only. Latest data will be loaded. You understand, right? There will be 2 different types of loads. One is FL, another is IL. So if you want to get these 2 records are loaded first time. When I run again, these 2 should not be loaded because they were already loaded. This 2 should not come again. If the record is already loaded, then we are not supposed to load the same record again. Okay, so people think that SCD type 1 is an incremental loading. Basically, that is not incremental loading. Incremental loading is going to be happen based on the date columns. Based on the date columns, we are going to apply the incremental loading. If we have a date, how you are going to do the incremental loading? If you don't have the date, then how you are going to do the incremental loading? SCD types is something different to define your slowly changing dimensions. We are going to talk about it, how we can handle this SCD type 1 and type 2 implementation. Before doing this SCD types, we have to go for incremental loading, especially when you have a more volume of data. So when we are going to use this SCD types is when you have a more and more volume of the data, when you have it, then we are going for incremental loading. If we have a less volume of the data in the tables, then we can directly go for FL, truncate and load. There is no use. There is no purpose to go for IL for every table. So when you have a tables in the database, you're going to have some tables with FL and some tables with IL. Okay, so in the data ingestion, at the time of data ingestion, it is very, very, very important. You have to read only latest data, especially if the tables are having more volume of the data. So that is important. Okay, so just imagine this customer table is having massive volume of data. So I wanted to apply incremental loading for this. If I don't have the date column, then how we can apply incremental loading, we'll see. There are various options are there. Okay, so I can do with the SQL, I can do with the CDCs, change data capture, and data factory also brought this feature. Okay, so we have various options to handle it. In order to go for getting latest records, you can also use the change data capture when you have a when you don't have a date columns in the tables. So just imagine, mostly you're going to have a date columns. Mostly, for some reason, for some places, you may not have a date columns. In that case, it will be IL will be little costly operation, but still we are going to use that. And how exactly we are going to handle it, we'll see. But for time being, you just imagine we have a date columns in the tables. Now I wanted to apply incremental loading for this. Okay, so if I wanted to apply incremental loading, then definitely we need to specify a range of the date. So here two date columns are there in this table. Which date column I need to take whenever you are going for incremental loading? The first point you need to understand what is a key column or what is filter column, not a key column. I can say it is a filter column. What is filter column here in table? So if you see this table, we are going to have a filter column is updated it. Okay, so why I have taken these two columns, I'll take you through. In one of situation, I faced this kind of problem. So for that reason, I took the two columns. Okay, so I'm just going to take a updated it. Just imagine updated it is my filter column. Okay, so this date column I'm going to take as a reference to implement IL. So whenever you're going to write a SQL statement, we are going to apply a range of the filters, a range of the dates. Okay, so after this date, I wanted to take the data. You just imagine, I'm just going to feed one more new record here. (103). After this date, I wanted to take it. Okay. Write a SQL statement to get data after this particular date. I'm just saying, just execute this. So one row is affected. And if you see, there are 3 rows are there in the source. Now, when I say after this date, there is only one record. Just observe, select star from table name. where updated at greater than, I'm just taking this date. Let's execute it. How many records are there? Only one record is there. Okay, so you have to specify the starting date and ending date. Basically, you need to have a boundary, because in the source, always the data is going to be loading, right? We don't know, like while executing this statement, how many records are going to be there. Okay, so so we are going to have a starting range and ending range. Starting date and ending date also is required. Updated at greater than and less than or equal to some date. So max date of your source that you need to take it. So while executing that, I'll take you through. While creating that integrated, IL pipeline, I'll take care about it. So here you have to get only this particular record only. If I run my pipeline, I should get this data alone. I should not get other data. So in order to do this, how you are going to handle it? And how do you know till what date the data is loaded? Till what date data is loaded? How do you know that? So till this date, the data was loaded, right? First time, when you load the first time, two records were loaded. And that is what the last updated date that we are going to take it. So after that date until current date. So this is the last loaded date. And let's execute this. I'm just going to feed one more record so that you can see little more difference. I'm just feeding one more record. Now 4 records are there. So this is the latest date, right? So I'm just taking this one and updated at less than or equal to. If I execute this one, you're going to get the data for only this particular range. So from this date to this date. So while executing this, you may have some more data in the source, the data may get it. So because of that reason, I'm just giving the boundaries from which date to which date I need to load it. Okay, so if I execute now this particular statement from the data factory, you just observe. So I'm going to change this code here. Just hit OK. And if I run it, it is going to load only these 2 new records. Okay, so we already having this 101, 102. Just leave it for time being. Once I run it, 103 and 104 only will be loaded. 101 and 102 second time is not going to be loaded. Okay, otherwise let me remove the data from here. This time we'll go for proper condition. Customer ID greater than 10, not even that. Okay. I don't want to do right now. Let's leave it because I need to go with the row number. Then I have to remove it. So it will lead little confusion. For time being, just run it as it is. So in the target, I have a 101 and 102. Four records are available. Let me take this snip for reference otherwise. Now I'm going to run my pipeline. Let's debug it. It is going to take only the latest records from the source.
Because you use the updated query.
Yeah. Now if you go and see your target, Select star from table name. So previously 4 records were there as it is. There is no change in the 4 records. The latest records are loaded here. We can see. When I run again, it will not load the data. Okay, so if you see here, you can see data read is 2, data copied is 2. So data read means from the source. Data rows copied means target, how many rows we loaded into the target, it is showing here. Now again, I'm just running it. I don't have any new record in the source, but still, because I have given range, right? So again, it is going to take the 2 records. Okay, again, it is going to load the two records in the target because the dates are not changing. Whatever the dates that I have given here, these dates are not getting changed, right? They're fixing. We should not fix the dates. We have to control these dates from the outside. These dates we need to control from the outside. We don't handle the incremental loading like this. Hard-coded is not recommended because dates are going to be changed. So in order to control these dates, we are going to use control table. We are going to use control table. So control table is very, very important for data engineers. So we are going to have a control table. I guess I'm not having this control table. We need to create a control table. Okay. So I've given the context here, why we need to go for incremental loading. So incremental loading is used to improve the performance. We don't need to load all the data again and again. So when you have a massive volume of data, we are going to use this incremental loading. Okay, so when we see practically, then I'll come back to these points. Once we have seen the practically, then you can understand it. Okay, so let's create a control table first. I need to create a control table. The control table should be in our control. Okay, the control table should be in our control. So where we need to create a control table? That is the question. Are we going to create in the source systems or are we going to create in the target systems? So on which system we are going to create it? In the source, we are not going to have any control. They're just going to give a reading access, not more than that. Okay, so by just reading, we do not create a control table here. So some people, they may create it, but I'm sure we are going to create a control tables in the target. We're going to have a control tables in the target. I hope you are following with me. So I need to create a control table. How I'm going to create a control table? You just observe. So whenever I require, I may go and change the control table structure. Okay. So for time being, I'm just saying create control table. Let's say control table only. Control TBL. Create table. Table name is control underscore table. So I'm just taking control ID. I'm just giving some name of type is integer and control table name, or you can just give a table name also. That's fine. Varchar 100. And then last loaded date is required. Last loaded date is date time curve. Okay, so at what time it is loaded last time? Last loaded date. Till what date data is loaded, the details are going to be there with the last loaded date. If you don't have this last loaded date, then you cannot do it. I'm just taking up to these 3 columns. If I require to add any new columns, I'm going to add it. I'm sure I'm going to add it. So I'm not creating all the columns at one shot. Okay, so you need to understand what is the importance of that particular column. So let's create this table where you're creating. I'm creating inside the target. Let's execute it. Now table is created. Select star from control table. No data is available. I wanted to apply incremental loading for my customer table. So I need to feed. I need to log these details. We need to feed the data ingestion details inside the control table. Okay, so I'm just started with the control table. Just keep in mind 100% is required. If you want to create a metadata driven pipelines, we require control table. So I just taken these 3 columns. In my project, we were having more than 150 columns in the control table. Okay, so there are many details that we kept inside that. Depends on your requirement, you may have a number of columns varies. Okay, so I'm just taking 3 columns for time being. We'll add few more columns, whatever is required. At the time of project, you will see little more number of columns. Now I'm just going to take insert into table name is control table values. I wanted to add 1 comma and table name is customer. And
In target side, why you put the record?
hold on. I'll give a chance to ask a question. Now I need to have a last loaded date. When you're entering the last loaded date, how exactly we followed in my project. So that I'm just going to give it here. Last loaded date we need to provide. Okay, because you have to take the date from here. You have to take the last loaded date, right? So the last loaded date I'm going to say is the minimum date of your source. Minimum date of your source minus 2. So for safer side, I'm just taking minus 2. Okay, so 2 days back, I'm just going to specify what date I'm going to give is. First, get the minimum date. Minimum date from where you are going to get it from the source table. Just observe. Select min of updated at from customer table. So when I execute this, you are going to get the minimum date. Column name is different. Updated at. Let's execute it. So this is the minimum date. Okay, so for this date, I need to go for minus 2 dates. Minus 2 days. Now today, this date is what? 24. So 24 minus 2, 22. So same date, I'm taking a copy. So date should be enclosed in a single quote. So whatever the minimum date I'm having, that minimum date for that, I'm just going to say minus 2 means 24 minus 2 is 22. So I'm just taking this last loaded date, this one. So this is how whenever you're going to feed or whenever you're going for incremental loading, you need to feed that particular details in the control table because you have to control from the outside. So I just kept this 2 days prior of your minimum source date. Just insert it. So one row is affected. I'm just executing this select statement again. You can see there is a customer table and there is a last loaded date. So this date I need to take it. Okay, so in order to take the date from this particular control table, to take the data from to take a data from control table, we are going to use the lookup activity. We are going to use lookup activity because this particular column is going to have a last loaded date. Till what date we loaded the data for this particular table is going to be available inside this table only. I hope you are following with me. So this is, if I take the data greater than this date, then I'm going to get all the data. Let's say, for example, if I take this date into this place, then you are going to get all the data, right? If I execute this one, you're going to have all the data. So because of that reason, I'm taking this minimum date minus 2. Minimum date minus 2 is your last loaded date in the control table. Now we need to take the data, we need to take that particular date into the data factory. Let me publish this. Okay, so what I'll do is, my data sets are saying, I'm just going to clone my pipeline. Clone this pipeline. Not this one, sorry. Yeah, this one only. Incremental loading. I'm just giving some name for this pipeline. So before executing this copy data activity, I need to get the date from the control table. So in order to get the data, in order to take the date from the control table, we are going to use the lookup activity. So here I have given, to go for incremental loading, I have given here. So we need to create a source table and target table, and control table is required to have your metadata as per our discussion. So we already seen how we can create it. Link services are required. And then the steps that, whatever the steps I have given here, we are going to see practically. So if they ask in the interview, you have to give these details. How can we implement incremental loading? Okay, so let's go back to here. I'm just saying, rename this copy is the naming standard I'm following. You can give any naming standard. CP underscore load data. So it is used to copy it, but before copying, you have to make this dynamic. This dates we need to make it dynamic, right? So otherwise it is not going to be possible. Okay, so in order to get it, we need to use a lookup activity to get the last loaded date. So lookup activity is used to read the data from the database as well as from the file system. It is going to be possible. So the next activity I'm going to touch is lookup activity. It is used to look into database. I can look into the database and I can look into the file system also. So both are going to be possible. If you are looking on the database, then we are going to write the SQL code. So I'm going to show you how we can write a SQL code, and you can feel that when the moment I take this lookup activity, you can feel that. This lookup activity can return two values. I mean to say it returns a single row and it returns a multiple rows. So both are possible. That is what I have given. Lookup activity can return a single row and can return multiple rows. So this multiple rows, I can also call it as a list of values. I can also call it as a list of values. Another point is the lookup activity output will come, right? That output will be given to for each activity, will be given to filter activity, and will be given to if condition activity. So we are going to see this practically. Each and every point we are going to see practically. And the limitations of the lookup activity is the lookup activity will not be used for actual data. When I say actual data means it is a business data. We are not going to use against your business data. We are going to use this against for metadata only. So metadata is available where? In the control table. Okay, so lookup activity can return up to 5,000 rows only. If it is more than 5,000 rows, it is not going to return more than 5,000 rows. If I have a 5,001, one record will be ignored. Only it returns always up to 5,000 rows only. So as a result, it contains more records, and the first five, if your SQL returns, if the SQL code returns more than 5,000 rows, it is going to consider only first 5,000 rows only. So that is what I'm saying here. In terms of number of rows, or in terms of the size of the data, the lookup activity supports up to 4 MB data only. If it is greater than 4 MB, then it is not going to be returned. Only up to 400 only it is going to be taken. If it is greater than 4 MB, then it is going to be failed. It is going to be failed when you use when you have a more than 4 MB. Okay, so these two are the limitations. When you take this control table, we don't get 5,000 number of rows. Okay, so in my case, we were having up to 1,000 rows were there in the control table, not more than that. So even if you have a more than that, still we have a solution. We can split into pieces. Okay, so if you get that particular situation, then you can feel how we can provide the solution after completion of the course. Okay, so that is how it is going to be there. But mostly you don't get more than 1,000. You don't get more than that. So Microsoft knows the limitation of it. Okay, so
Generally content table store more than 5,000 in real time.
that's what I'm saying. You don't get it. If you get it, you have to break them into pieces. Okay, you have to send by batches. In one batch, you have to send, let's say you have a 9,000 records. Send in one batch is 400 record, 450. Another batch is 450.
That means two
Sorry,
lookup table.
4,500 and 4,500.
Two lookup table we will use.
Not two lookup, batch numbers. Give a batch number, filter, give it. Your lookup code should not get more than this. In one batch, send this many records. You're going to give a batch number for that. Okay. So lookup activity is required. So I'm going to use this lookup activity to get the last loaded date in the next session. Okay, so next session is very, very important. And then store procedure activity also we are going to touch. So tomorrow we are going to complete this incremental loading for single table. Any question before stopping?
Sir, when you configure the target, Azure Data Studio you use. Why you use Azure Data Studio?
Man, to differentiate, I'm using it. Okay, so here you can, if you're interested to use, you can use the same thing. You can connect. While talking, I explained about it. If you want to connect your on-prem SQL, your target with the same SQL Server Management Studio, you can connect. No one will stop you.
This is the another way to connect the target.
That is what I told. Okay, I can show you here itself. So you may get some confusion. So I went for different connectivity. This is also one of the tools. When you install SQL Server Management Studio, you will get this Azure Data Studio by default. You don't need to install separately. Okay.
Sir, yesterday I tried to install Azure database, sir, but I'm not able to connect with SQL Server, sir.
Yeah,
I'm getting some errors.
Yeah. So once you set up, if your IP address is changed, you are going to get some issue. You just open that Azure SQL Server database, go to your database. You can find the database, hit on it. So here, once you go into the database, there is a set server firewall. Hit on set server firewall. You have to add your IP address, because if your power goes off and on, then IP address will be changed. Okay, so that IP address you need to add it. There is a add your client IP address. So if you add it, then you have to save it. You have to save it. In my case, both are same. My IP address is not changed, so I can use the same thing. Okay, so this is what the problem you're going to face it when the IP address,
So this,
when the network is changed.
add your client IP address, it will directly come, sir, if you click on it.
Yes, it will come automatically.
Okay, sir. I will add, sir.
Yeah, you try. And if you're still facing issue, let me know.
Okay, sir.
Sir, what is Azure Storage Explorer and what is the use of Azure Storage Explorer when we will connect the ADLS Gen 2?
We'll see that. We'll see that. That is a client tool. Okay, Azure Storage Explorer is a client tool to connect to the Azure Data Lake Storage Centers. When time comes, we'll come across it.
Sir, I have one doubt, sir.
Yeah,
So while updating, taking minimum date, you have used updated date -2. In the real time, how we have to identify, sir? Last.
that is what I told. Like based on the real time only, I'm saying how we followed in my company.
Okay,
So
sir.
minimum date -2,
2. Okay, sir.
always recommended. Minimum date -2.
2. Okay, sir.
So generally, why you use control table in the project, sir? Actually, for not set the hard code value.
If you understand tomorrow's session, then you can understand. Or we have seen, right?
No, this concept I understand that.
Then why are asking me? What is the purpose of control table? We have seen this is a hard-coded problem was there. We are going to make this dynamic. To make this dynamic, we need to have a control table. That is what I told you. Okay, so control table is 100% is required. You can feel that tomorrow. What is the importance of it? We already seen the problem and how we can provide the solution with the control table. We are going to see on tomorrow. Okay, you got my point, right? Still have a doubt?
No.
We'll see. We are going to spend this dynamic approach for next 2 sessions, tomorrow and day after tomorrow, mostly. So you can see how important it is. Okay, then I'm stopping here.
And
We'll see
in real time, Azure Storage Explorer is important.
Whatever I'm going to show you, that will be very important for real time. So I did not come across with Azure Storage Explorer at this point of time. So we'll see. If you have a portal access, you can go and see what is the purpose of storage or Explorer. You are going to see what is there inside the storage account, right? So definitely everything is important. If I come across that, it is important. As simple as that.
And what about Azure function is important in the real time?
Azure functions, we are not going to discuss. It is out of the boundary. Okay, so if you wanted to write anything with Azure function, you can go and type. You can try for that. But we are not going to see anything with the Azure functions. We are going to use Azure Databricks capabilities. Okay.
Yes.
See, Azure means there will be so many things. Many things you are not going to use. You got my point, right? So
Yes.
concentrate more on Azure Data Factory and Azure Databricks. This is important for you. If you know this, if you're strong enough on this, especially Databricks. If you're more strong on this, you will get more packets. Not with others. If you're strong enough with this, then you will get more packets. But it doesn't mean that you grow in ADF. You need to have it. If you want to get a job, then ADF also is required.
If anybody have 6 years of experience, then what kind of baggage they will expect?
Man, we'll talk in offline in different session. Okay.
Bhaskar, I have one question.
Yeah.
The lookup activities and other activities you are showing with ADF. So those things later on we will discuss it on using ADB also.
Similar kind of things. How we can do it there, we'll see that.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Because why we are going for the Databricks also, we are going to talk.
Yeah, the incremental load and the full load also.
Incremental loading also. Incremental loading, see, if you do it in a SQL, then it is more or less same to same only in the Databricks.
Okay.
Okay, so here we are going to pass in a dynamic. That is much more easier than this.
Okay.
Okay, but before coming into the Databricks, we are taking incremental loading into our storage. Basically, the storage is not going to be SQL Server. For my easy explanation, I'm taking. But basically, we are going to have a Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. ADLS Gen 2 will be a target.
Okay.
Okay. So here my intention is not about the target. My intention is how we can implement IL. Okay. So we are going to see.
Okay.
Okay, then I'm stopping here. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.